Hello friends, how you all doing? Well, today I'll be doing a video on a very important topic. It might not be so important to the rest of the world, however, it is very important to someone who lives in India. So, the topic is how to buy and live with a superbike. The reason I'm doing this video is because buying a superbike in India is not something very easy, I would say. The reason being, these motorbikes are exotics in India. They are imported, they are not made here. And Indian import laws have 120% or even more, I'm not sure about it, duty, import tax on these machines. It could be a car or a motorbike. If it's imported, we gotta pay 120% import tax. When this happens, the price to the end user gets very high. For an example, if you go to a Yamaha dealership and wish to buy a brand new Yamaha R1, it would set you back, it would cost you about 18 lakhs Indian rupees. That is about $36,000. That's a lot of money. So, how does an average Indian fulfill his or her dream of buying a superbike? It could be a 600, a 750 or a 1000 cc. But how can they buy a super sport? Of course, the most easy way, like I mentioned, is if you got the money, go walk into a dealership and buy one. However, it is easier said than done. So, what is the other way? That is to buy a used motorbike. And remember, used motorbikes are not cheap either, because there is something known as demand and supply. When there is very high demand and supply of these superbikes is very low, then what happens? The used market is priced. The motorbikes in the used market are priced very high. The depreciation levels are very low. People don't want to sell the superbikes. If they want to sell, they wish to sell it for the cost, the price that they like. There's nothing wrong. That is how business and the world works. So, buying used superbikes are not easy either. What do? It's a very tough situation, very challenging situation. Let us talk about, let us forget about buying a new motorbike from the dealership. Let us talk about a used motorbike. A used motorbike, for example, talk about a 2012 model Yamaha R1 or any 1000cc, a Suzuki Gixxer or a Fireblade, would cost you about 14 lakhs or 12 lakhs, or not very sure, depending upon the kind of aftermarket stuff that they got on their motorbikes. And many people ask me, what is a legal bike? What is a grey bike? Well, you know what? Looks like it's going to rain. I hope not, because I hope it rains. We need rain here, but I hope it doesn't rain right now. Give me 15 minutes. Let me complete this video. Nature. Alright. So, many people ask me, what is a grey bike and what is a legal bike? A legal motorbike means a motorbike that has been imported into India either by an end user, that is, end user means you or I or anyone who wants to ride and buy a motorbike, or by a dealership or an importer. If it's been brought into India the legal way. The legal way is you buy a motorbike in some other country with all the papers, a brand new one, and then get it to India, ship it to India, and at the port you pay 120% duty. That makes it legal. Simple. However, there are many used motorbikes which say they are legal, and many even say they are great. So what should you buy? What should you not buy? When it says legal, as I told you, you got to check all the papers. How did it come to India? Was it bought at a dealership? If it's bought at a dealership, that's the best bet. It's Indian invoiced. You don't have to worry about anything. However, those motorbikes are priced very high. And the other is imported by an individual. So if it's imported by an individual, then you got to check the invoice of this motorbike in the country of origin. Then you got to check the person who has imported the motorbike to India, his passport, his details, and you got to check the duty, the import duty that has been paid at the port. And to check all this, we are not experts. How many of us have ever imported something this way? We do not know about it, how it is done. And the worst part of the situation is that these documents can be forged, can be faked very easily. And you and I cannot distinguish between a genuine document or a fake document. So it's a tough situation. What you can do is, if you go to a seller, someone is selling a used motorbike and he claims that it's legal, you can take a photocopy of his documents, the import documents, and go to the custom officials and get it verified. But I've never seen an owner of a motorbike who's willing to give you the documents and letting you go to the custom department and get it verified. And even if you go there, the custom department, to get it verified, I don't think they would be so happy for you. I mean, so happy to give you all the details. You can do it, but it's a process. So now, what do? What is a gray motorbike? Gray motorbike is, of course, a motorbike that duty has not been paid. There are different ways to import a motorbike. You can illegally import it. There are ways of doing it. You just put it into a container and just get it to India. And if you know someone in the custom departments at the port, just get the motorbike into India and register the motorbike on some fake documentation and keep riding it. That is a gray motorbike. There are very in-depth details into what can be a gray motorbike. You can write to me, comment, and I would be glad to help you on that. So there is another way, a very legal way to get a motorbike into India, that is transfer of residence. That means if an Indian has been living overseas, could be America, Dubai, Thailand, Singapore, it could be anywhere, and if he or she has bought a motorbike there, and if they are moving back to India permanently, then they can get their motorbike to India on the legal clause which says transfer of residence. That has a lot of detail into it. Sometimes excuse me. Sometimes it says the motorbike is not supposed to be more than 2 years old or 3 years old, 4 years old, and once you get it to India, the custom duty is not 120%, but it is about 60%, or I'm not very sure about it. I can get into the details and let you know, but there is another legal way of getting a motorbike into India, that is transfer of residence. And when you go to buy a used motorbike, many times the sellers say that this is a motorbike that is on TR, transfer of residence, so it's fully legal. But again, as I told you, the documentation can be fake. You gotta check it. Bottom line, the situation is not easy. it's very challenging for someone who wants to fulfill their dream of buying a superbike. So that is about buying one. And how about now you bought it? It could be a new one, it could be a used one, a gray, a transfer of residence, old superbike, new superbike. Now how do you maintain it? Now remember, these motorbikes are exotics. They are not made here. So if the motorbike is not made here, even the spare parts would not be made here, including the tires. So everything has to be imported. And when everything is imported, what happens? The price goes up. If something is priced at $200 in the United States, if you need it in India, it has got to get shipped to India. Then there is something called Indian import duty even on spare parts. So you got to pay the spare parts, and then you get it. So the price of a $200 spare part would become $400 or even more. Shipping is not easy, it's a long way. So let us talk about basic costs of the spare parts. Here, this is my 2001 Yamaha R1. Alright, and let us start with the most basic and most important and critical thing on the motorbike, that is the tires. The tires of these motorbikes are super soft compound tires. They are huge. They are 180 millimeters, 190 millimeter rear tire, and the front is about 120. So they are huge tires, and they are imported. These are Michelin's. So it could be Michelin, it could be Metzeler, they could be Pirelli or any of the brands, but these tires would cost you, a set would cost you about 35,000, 25,000 to 35,000, depending upon what kind of set do you want. Usually a good set would cost you about 35,000. So you might be thinking, all right, what I'll do, I'll save for some time and then buy a good set paying 30 or 35,000 rupees. But you know what is the most critical part of these tires? That is, they have to take a lot of torque. This rear wheel, there's about 140 horsepower coming at this rear wheel. All right, so this tire is supposed to manage so much torque. So what happens? They get worn out very fast, and although they're super soft compound to grip onto the tarmac, so this rubber would not last more than about 8 to 10,000 kilometers. So that's a lot of money. You got to change the rear wheel at every 8 to 10,000 kilometers, and you got to change the front wheel. I think it'll last about 15,000 kilometers. So that's expensive. And you know what is happening? I think it's raining. And if the rain picks up even one bit, I think it's picking up, I'll start pushing my motorbike in, because a superbike getting wet is not a nice thing. Oh, okay. Hey, go, come here. Help me push this motorbike in. Okay. Alright friends, I'm back. What I've done is I've moved the motorbike from my front yard to inside my building, because it started to rain. Not really rain, but there's some water out there. So as I mentioned, do not get your superbikes wet. It's not easy to clean them up. Alright, and forget about riding in rain. Remember that no matter who says what, superbikes should not be ridden when it's raining. Because yes, I was speaking about tires, how expensive they are and how long they last. Also remember, these tires are not meant for rains. These, especially the tires that I have, they are still all-weather tires. However, if you get more of a track tire, well, it would hardly have any water displacement grooves. And when it's raining, you just aquaplane. Alright, so bottom line, just forget about riding them in rain. And many people ask me, can I ride the Superbike day to day in daily traffic? That is a very interesting question. I believe, I think I'll come back to the topic. Alright, I'm still speaking about how expensive it is to maintain one. What does it cost? So we've covered tires now. So let us talk about general maintenance. We all know it could be a car or a motorbike. Every 5,000 or 10,000 kilometers we gotta service it. What does service mean? We gotta change the oil. We gotta change the oil filter, the air filter, sometimes the spark plugs, and brake pads have to be checked, and few other routine maintenance things. So the coolant levels have to be checked, sometimes topped up, and also sometimes required to flush the whole coolant, put the new one on. So now let's talk about what would a general maintenance cost you. Let us say, might not be 10,000, but keep it as if you would like to service your motorbike at 8,000 kilometers intervals. So at 8,000, most of the time you're going to be at the end of life of your rear tire. Alright, front can do about 15,000, rear will do about 8 to 10. So keep it as you got to change the rear tire. That'll cost you about 18,000 rupees only for the rear tire. Alright, and then we're talking about engine oil. Engine oil, fully synthetic engine oil will at least cost you about 11 or 1200 rupees, or even more, depending upon what brand and quality that you're looking for and what grade you're looking for. And these motorbikes take about 3 liters of engine oil, so that is about 3,500 rupees gone there. 18,000 less 3,500 rupees. All right, and then you're talking about, I'm speaking about a thorough service here. All right, so you're talking about replacing the whole coolant. Replacing the whole coolant, these take about 3 liters of coolant. So each liter of coolant will cost about 500 rupees. That's 1,500 rupees there. So 18 plus 3.5 plus 15 is about 23,000 rupees. All right, and then you're speaking about an oil filter. Genuine oil filter or a good aftermarket oil filter will cost you about, it's not cheap either because they're imported. So in the United States it could cost about $50, but till the time you get it here, could be, who knows, you will end up paying about 4,000, 3,000, depending upon, even 5,000, the kind of oil filter that you're looking for. So say 3,000 rupees for the oil filter. I'm taking the minimums, remember. All right, so you're speaking about 26,000 rupees here. And then brake pads. Usually you'll not be done on brake pads at 8,000, but depending upon how you ride, if you have to change them, 8 to 10,000 kilometers possible. So if you change your brake pads, you gotta get good brake pads for these machines. So a set of 2 in front and 1 in the rear will cost you $100 is the selling price in the United States. So that there goes shipping, there goes customs, unless someone who's traveling from the United States brings the parts back to you. So you're speaking about 6,000 to 8,000, or sometimes even 10,000 for brake pads only. I'm speaking about good quality stuff here. All right, so there you've already crossed 30,000 rupees. All right, so that is done. And you're speaking about air filters. Air filters, spark plugs. I put NGK radium. They're not cheap spark plugs. A set of 4 would cost about 5,000 rupees. So on average, every 10,000 to 15,000 kilometers, you'll be spending about 35,000 rupees on maintenance. This is the minimum that I'm speaking about, without replacing any spare parts, without any breakdowns. All right, so If you wish to know general price, the throttle cables will cost you about, I bought them from United States without paying any custom or shipping. They cost me about 3,000 rupees, 2,500, 3,000 rupees. So if you get them to India, it'll be double the money, 5,000 rupees. But good quality stuff. And the clutch. Oh, remember, the clutch, I forgot to mention. If you're doing spirited, off the line rides, you're doing drag racing, you're doing wheelies, then you're speaking about replacing the clutch every few thousand kilometers, alright? So clutch is not cheap again, you know, could be about 8 to 10,000 rupees, a good quality one. Remember, I'm speaking about genuine good quality parts. You do get cheap replica parts in India, but they are not worth it. Trust me, you will regret it. You'll get cheap plugs, you'll get cheap brake pads, and you'll get cheap clutch plates, but they're absolutely not worth it because the brake pads would not have any kind of friction, the clutch plates would just wear away in no time, and the spark plugs would not do a good job. So on these motorbikes, we cannot compromise on the quality of the spare parts or the regular maintenance parts that we're getting. Alright, so, and let me give you a fair idea of what all I've done on this motorbike. When I bought this motorbike had a few issues which I had to address. And starting with, I had a major issue on the regulator rectifier. Now what is a regulator rectifier? Regulator rectifier is something which converts AC power produced by the stator to DC direct current and then regulates it to maximum 14.8 to 15 volts to charge your battery. If that fails, your battery will either not charge or overcharge. Both the situations are bad. And these motorbikes are electronic ignition. If your battery is low, they will not be running. They would just come to a standstill. The engine would stop when you're riding. Alright. So I was speaking about the regulator rectifier on these motorbikes. Trust me, they're prone to failure. The newer models are still alright. They have a different kind of technology, but the older models could be pretty, I don't call them old, I love old motorbikes, but just for an idea, 2005, 2006 or before that, models have issues with regulator rectifiers. And on my motorbike, yes, the regulator rectifier failed. And that time I did not understand how it works and what is the technology behind it. So what I did, I just went to a so-called Superbike mechanic. And trust me, there are very few Superbike mechanics in India. That is another topic that I can talk about. I'll just give you a briefing about it. There are very few people who can service and repair these motorbikes in India. Many people come forward and say that they can do it, but trust me, they're not trained. They could just be experimenting on your motorbike. Alright, I've been fortunate to find an ex-Yamaha dealership Superbike trained technician, and he's a very nice person. He is fairly knowledgeable but not cheap. His charges are quite a bit. For an example, I got my front forks fully serviced and I changed the oil seals and the dust caps. It costed me 10,000 rupees. Well, that is the cost that you pay. And I got my front calipers serviced. That is removing the pistons, polishing them and putting them back with new rubber seals. It costed me about 9,000 rupees. So it's not cheap. And again, you might not be doing that very often, but it depends upon how you ride. If you ride very badly on bad roads, you're doing wheelies, you're calling for new oil seals and service of your front forks very often. Okay, and so I got a regulator rectifier from some person and installed it, and it just failed in 600 kilometers. And you know how much I paid for it? I paid 11,500 rupees, and it hurts. And I did not understand how they work. I thought a specific model of rectifier regulator would only work on this machine. Then I did my own research, blah blah. Somehow now I know the topic very well. I know the technology, and I imported the big daddy of all regulator rectifiers, a series race specific regulator rectifier, and I installed it here. You see that here, and it's very powerful, works really well, but it will cost you about 11,000 rupees. This is without customs and shipping. So if you're talking about customs and shipping, keep it at 15 or 16,000 rupees. Okay, so this is general maintenance. I could be missing some parts or costs of few things. You can ask, you can write to me. I'll be glad to let you know about them. And now talking about, you've done all this, you bought a motorbike, you put new tires, you serviced it, and you love the motorbike, but can you ride the motorbike to work? Can you ride it in day-to-day busy urban traffic? The answer is no, you cannot do that. The reason being, number one, these machines are made for the racetrack or for a freeway where you can ride them fast. They are pure race bred machines. Now, what will happen if you ride them in traffic? Point one, these machines have a fairly high compression ratio. So the engine is working hard. The pistons are going and compressing the fuel for a really good bang to produce that horsepower and torque. They heat up a lot, and they have full fairing, so the heat has got no place to escape. And remember, they have a radiator but a very small fan. They are not like cars where they have a huge fan, so the fan barely does any job. So you got to be moving at least about 60 kilometers an hour constantly to keep the motorbike's temperature within the operational limits. So, and you know what the operational limits are? They're about 100 or 110 degrees Celsius. That depends upon motorbike to motorbike. This motorbike runs fairly cool. Her operational temperature would be about 75 to 85, up to 100 also. But the newer machines, which have even more compression ratio, they run at about 110 to 115 degrees Celsius. They are so hot that you cannot get your legs together to the machine if you're not riding at least about 60 to 80 kilometers an hour, because the heat from the engine has to escape. Else it will keep radiating to your legs and your body, and it's bad for you, and it's really bad for the engine too. The gaskets can get blown out if the motorbike overheats. That is about heating. Then riding comfort. Well, you'll be sitting in a racing position, and how long can you sit like this for in the city traffic? Well, it hurts. Some people can do it, some people don't find it comfortable, so that's a challenge, you know. And the foot pegs are placed quite quite back on the motorbike. So if you are riding in bumper to bumper traffic, you got to get your foot back and on the ground, and again back and on the ground. It's not going to be easy. So bottom line, it is not for day-to-day use. Also remember, can you park this motorbike in your office parking lot or regular public parking lot and just go away to have lunch or to work or to do something? No, you cannot. These machines are so attractive that people would come and fiddle with them. They would sit on them. It's all right if they're taking photographs, if they stand close to the motorbike, but they would destroy the motorbike by sitting on them, and the side stand breaks. Your fairing is going to go crack if the motorbike falls, and fluids are going to get leaked out of the motorbike. It's not a nice thing to leave these machines unattended. So you cannot park them in public parking. The heat is too much to ride in day-to-day traffic. The riding position is challenging because it's made for the track. The tires are expensive to ride every day. So forget about riding every day. That is the reason I bought my KTM 390, which I use for everyday riding. Alright, although owning a Yamaha R1, I bought a KTM 390. That machine is an absolute beauty when it comes to riding in the city traffic, and she can beat any Superbikes. Alright, we're not talking about KTM today anyway. Fine. So, and also remember, very important thing. Many people ask me, I'm riding a 100cc or 150cc or a 180cc motorbike. Can I just buy a Superbike and start riding it? Well, I would say many people have done it, but it is not the most recommended thing to do, because these machines have just too much torque and power, horsepower on the high-end range. So if you're not used to that kind of torque, you're going to land up in trouble. General habit of any motorbiker riding a 100, 150cc or commuter motorbike is to just bang open the throttle if they wish to go fast. But if you do the same on that motorbike, is to bang open the throttle. If you do that on that Superbike, you'll be in deep trouble. She'll just launch so fast, and she'll either do a wheelie or the rear wheel will just spin and get you out of control. That is, you've got to learn a lot about throttle management. So riding a 600cc is slightly more forgiving than a 1000, because the torque on a 600 is much lesser. 600s are fast, but the low end torque is much lesser. So, but again, if you have to ride a 1000 directly from a commuter motorbike, you can do it. Do it with extreme caution. Throttle, open it in millimeters, alright? Millimeters. This is enough to launch you. Okay? And the brakes, be very careful. On Superbikes, on sport bikes, only front brake. Only front brake. Rear, I don't even touch. I've done a video on braking. You can find it on my channel. It's titled as How to Brake Non-ABS, something like that. So you got to learn about braking, throttle management, and how to handle a motorbike, which is, it's not heavy. This motorbike is not heavy. It's only 180 kilograms dry, which is about 20 or 30 kilograms more than a commuter motorbike. Sometimes almost the same as a commuter motorbike, but they're big, so they look big. Alright, and what else am I speaking about? Okay, fuel efficiency. Many of our Indian friends would like to know about fuel efficiency. A 1000cc would give you about, if you're riding hard or if you're riding in traffic, about 12 kilometers a liter minimum. And if you're cruising on the highway at 160 kilometers an hour or even more, in the 6th gear, if you're cruising, you'll get about 16 to 18. I want 18 as maximum fuel efficiency, which is really good for something as fast and as powerful as this one. And 600 cc's do a minimum of about 16 kilometers a liter and can go up to 22 kilometers a liter. But again, you know what? After saying all this, after saying that it is very challenging to choose a right motorbike which is legal or according to requirement and buy one, and after mentioning that they're expensive to buy and more expensive to maintain, and after saying that you cannot ride them in city traffic, it's not recommended, and after saying that you got to be very safe with the throttle, the brakes, you got to have your safety gear on. Yes, I forgot to mention this, that if you're buying motorbikes like these, it's generally for any motorbike, but again, if it's a fast motorbike, remember, you gotta spend a adequate amount of money on safety gear, a good helmet, good jacket with armor protection, knee pads, riding boots. Riding boots are critical. I've seen many people not use riding boots. They are riding with Nike or Adidas. Nike, Adidas is not going to save your feet when you crash at a high speed. They would get shredded like butter and you would lose your toes. This has happened to someone I know. So buy decent riding boots and gloves good gloves. When you fall, by second nature, your hand is going to come to the tarmac, and if you don't have good leather gloves, you can be in trouble. So invest on your riding gear. So coming back to the topic, that after me saying that tires don't last long, you can't ride them in city traffic, expensive to buy, the mini gray motorbikes, and you cannot figure out the paperwork. After saying all that, remember, if you end up buying one, the pleasure that you get of riding one and maintaining one is absolutely something that cannot be compared to anything. These motorbikes get you nirvana. These motorbikes get you pleasure that can only be experienced and cannot be explained. So, if you have the desire, if you have the passion to own one, I would say go ahead, do it, because it's one life. If you don't do it now, when would you? So go ahead, buy one, and remember, if you're buying one of these motorbikes, you got to be ready to work on them. Alright, so if you don't wish to work on these motorbikes at all, then, well, you can still do it, but I'm a kind of person that who likes to work. So go ahead, buy one, and live it. Nothing is going to come close to them. No Ferrari, no Lamborghini, or the pleasure is something which cannot be explained. Okay, so what else would you like to know about these motorbikes? I'm just thinking, am I missing something? I'm certainly missing a lot. So you can write to me. I'm sure you got many questions. I'll look forward for your comments. And also, I got a page on Facebook. It says, the name of the page is I Am Motorbiker, and we have a website, IamMotorbiker.com. So do check them out. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.